Hello guys, welcome back to ESENtaxa. Andrea Papito here. In this specific video we are going to talk about the income tax rate of Cyprus. If you're new to this channel, ESENtaxa talks about how to optimize your taxes if you want to relocate in a specific country, and we are the #1 channel that in English language explains all the European jurisdictions and how, tax-wise of course, and how to move to that specific country in Europe, optimize your taxes as low as possible. And of course we provide services such as tax consultancies, video tax consultancies, tax simulation and tax planning. Either you're a businessman, whether you have a company, complex business structure, or a simple freelancer and want to bring with you your family, or you're simply a person, a digital nomad who wants to move around quite consistently. Now, in this specific video I want to talk about Cyprus. Why? Because in Cyprus, people wants to move to pay less tax possible, as is known, an island that contains quite a lot of tax schemes, tax regulation, quite favorable, and compared to the rest of Europe, it seems to be one of the best. Especially if you want to incorporate a company, if you want to incorporate a holding company. Cyprus has a lot of tax agreement, double taxation agreement, quite favorable, so it could be very interesting jurisdiction when we are talking about structuring your business with multiple levels, if you want to also incorporate a trust there. So there are a lot of things where we can talk about Cyprus. More and more videos in this channel will come. But here and today, in this specific video, I just want to talk about the income tax rate for individuals. So if you become Cyprus tax resident as an individual, when you receive your income, general income, foreign income, miscellaneous income, employee income, self-employed, freelancer income, you have to pay taxes on your individual level. So we're not talking about an entity here, we are talking about an individual moving to Cyprus, relocating to Cyprus as a tax resident. So what is the tax rate on individual that Cyprus applies without any particular tax schemes, without applying any particular tax credit, tax benefit, tax exemption, nothing, just regularly, on regularly basis, a tax resident in Cyprus, how much he owns to the state. The very interesting part of Cyprus is that it also utilizes the tax bracket system. So we have the rates like in the rest of the Europe, or let's say the majority of European countries uses the tax progressive system with tax breaks. And the most interesting part of Cyprus is that without applying any tax exemption, just by default, the first tax bracket is actually 19,500 euro per year, which means that if your income is between 0 up to 19,500 euro per year, you pay 0 taxes. It has the 0% tax bracket. That makes extremely convenient to relocate there, regardless if you're applying any particular tax schemes or not. Just because you're there, you're living there, you're tax resident there, the first almost 20,000 euro per year as income are tax-free. The second tax bracket, it's between 19,500 up to 28,000, and it's about 20%. Okay, so doesn't mean that you pay 20% from 0 up to 28,000, but only in the second slot between 19,500 up to 20,000 you pay 20%. Okay. And of course, basically, on all over, it's only 1,700 euro to pay. It's basically nothing. The next bracket is between 28,000 up to 36,300 euro, and here the tax bracket rises to 25%. And the following tax bracket is 36,300 euro up to 60,000 euro, will rise 30%, and of course, above 60,000 euro, it's 35%, okay? So, if you see all the general tax bracket rates, if you have a 60,000 euro income, it's still quite convenient to be there and be a regular tax resident, because you're not going to pay 35% on all over your 60,000 euro per year, but it's gonna be a sort of average among the tax brackets. So basically you're going to pay around 20% taxes if you have 60,000 euros. So it's extremely convenient because the first tax bracket is actually 0. And that makes Cyprus extremely convenient by default. And it's extremely convenient to have a very low taxation starting already as individual, without even thinking about tax credit, not DOM tax regime, structure, etc., etc. But now, how do you become a tax resident in Cyprus? And here there are two ways. It's very particular because it's different from the rest of European countries. The first way, it has something in common with the rest of the countries. It's a classical 183 days living in the island. I want to just remind you that Cyprus is not part of the Schengen area. So if you're thinking about, okay, I might say 183 days is not easy for the authority to check if you're there or not, I can reply you guys, no, Cyprus is not in Schengen yet, so they might check you're entering, you're exiting the country, so they might check if you're really inside Cyprus for 183 days, if you're thinking about it. So, I mean, actually living for real in the country for more than 183 days makes you tax resident in Cyprus, and you can start benefit from this tax bracket system we have discussed so far for your worldwide income, because also Cyprus applies for the worldwide income by default. But there is also another way to acquire the Cyprus tax residency with the very peculiar 60 days rule, tax rule. And in 60 days tax rule, here we have to be very careful, because a lot of people have this misconception of, okay, I spend only 2 months in Cyprus and I'm tax resident there, benefiting from this lower tax bracket rates. No, it's not like this. I'm going to explain you why. If we look at the law, at the regulation, there are some slightly things that has to be taken into account to apply the 60 days tax residency rule. First of all, okay, you have to stay live for 2 months at least. Okay, we understood that. But at the same time, you should not reside for a period of more than 183 days in another country. And at the same time, you have to make sure that you're not yet considered a tax resident in another country. Otherwise, you will be disqualified by the 60 days rule from Cyprus. And this is very important. So it means that you have to make sure that from the country you're coming from, you didn't exceed either 183 days, or you're not bound to their tax residency. And here's the key point. People think, okay, I can move to Cyprus, but they didn't check if they have pending and active the previous tax residency in the country they are coming from. Okay, this is very important. And all these elements that I'm saying, I'm always using the conjunction and, because and means all together, proved at the same time. All these elements must be valid at the same time. Living for 2 months, 6 days. Do not pass 180 days in another country. Do not have a tax residency in another country. And have, final point, define the ties with Cyprus. Okay, all these things must be proven all at the same time, must coexist at the same time. So otherwise, you cannot apply the tax residency with 60 days rules, but with 183 days rules. And finally, what are the ties that attach you to this island, to Cyprus? Well, you have to be a director of a company, which means incorporate a company, be a director of it, be employed of a company, be a freelancer of a company, and also have a permanently established residency, such as purchase a property and living in it, or renting out a property and living in that address. I hope I was clear about the way of having the Cyprus residency and benefiting from the income tax rates of Cyprus 2024, of course, at the moment we are recording this video. It's extremely important to understand the reason why it's good jurisdiction when you want to, for example, when you have finished your benefit in another country in Europe. For example, you were living in Italy and applied for the unwanted regime, and your 5 years of unwanted regime expired, you need to look for another jurisdiction, and maybe Cyprus makes sense for you. Or you're living in Spain, you were applying the Beckham law, and also there it's another problem, because you consumed all your 6 years of the Beckham law in Spain and you're looking for another jurisdiction. So here in ESENtaxa we can help you with tax simulation thanks to that income tax rate system comparison, and thanks to the tax simulation that we can apply to your specific case, we can help you to understand if the relocation to Cyprus, to another country, or still another third country makes sense for you or not. In this video I just want to talk about Cyprus because it will be an initial video of this jurisdiction. We are going to release more and more content of this jurisdiction here, so it allows you to understand if with this initial information it will be more convenient than have a consultation with us, go more in details, we talk about some more detailed situations for your specific case, for this specific jurisdiction, if you want to relocate there. In the description below the video you will have our email contact, info@esentaxa.com. You have also our calendar link to book 1 hour call, 2 hour calls, or again, as I said, reserve a tax simulation. For anything else, if you want to stay updated for free with this kind of content, subscribe the channel, like the notification bell and like button to be always updated whenever we release this very detailed content for each European jurisdiction. See you to the next time. Bye.